Speaker of a chamber is one step on a longer political career path, but this is not the way it is done in the UK. Speaker Bercow of the House of Commons, for example, held some shadow frontbench positions and was certainly an active backbencher before becoming Speaker of the House of Commons. But it would be a notable break with tradition if he were to take a senior governor position when he steps down as Speaker. Similarly, I came into the House of Lords from an entirely non-political background, and I have no plans at all to become a high-flying political career after my speakership ends. This means that the agendas for bilateral speaker meetings can be a little asymmetrical. To use the Russian example, again, many of the people I met in Russia wanted to talk to me about the UK's visa regime for Russians, not something that the Lord Speaker is involved in at all. I, on the other hand, wanted to talk about matters such as the relationships between the Federation Council and the State Duma, and what we might learn from that for the Westminster context. Not something as politically topical as why we let so many oligarchs live in London and buy up our football clubs. They're very cross about that. A way around this is to repeat what members of my chamber are saying about an issue, but without expressing a personal view, personal political view. Despite these asymmetries, there's still value to be gained, I think, from these meetings, which I'll return to in a minute. The second reason why I don't visit other parliaments more often is purely one to do with timetabling. The primary duty of myself and Mr. Speaker is to preside over the business in our chambers, where the majority of parliamentary business is conducted. Both houses sit at least 4 days a week, with around 140 to 150 sitting days per year. Other parliaments work very differently. The Austrian National Council, for example, has plenary sittings only 2 or 3 days every month, with the rest of its work being conducted in committees. The Australian Senate sits around 60 days per year. The upshot of this is that I have far less time to travel than is the case with other speakers. I'm scrupulous about being in the chamber and about sitting on the woolsack for every sitting day. So far I've only missed, I think, one sitting day, and that was to attend an interparliamentary conference. Another way that I'm involved in international relations is the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association UK branch and the British group Inter-Parliamentary Union, for both of which I am the joint president together with Mr. Speaker. These two organisations seek to foster and improve links and understanding between parliaments. They do this by organising visits by UK parliamentarians to overseas parliaments and by arranging similar inbound visits. For example, before becoming Lord Speaker, I was a member of CPA delegations to Swaziland, Namibia, Rwanda, Mozambique, and an IPU delegation to Senegal. Also, I have a role as joint president of both organisations to approve outward delegations formally. In addition to visits, both the CPA, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and IPU hold conferences and put together thematic programmes to discuss and promote shared parliamentary issues. The CPA and IPU collaborated on an international conference on gender and politics the week before last. This conference involved parliamentarians from around 60 countries. It covered themes such as how women are represented in politics and what the barriers are to political engagement for both genders. I chaired the opening plenary session of this conference in this room, actually, and I'm always willing to take part in such events, which are absolutely fascinating. There is one final international aspect of my role. I represent the House during ceremonial events, including state visits. For example, when the President of Indonesia visited the week before last, I, together with Mr. Speaker, officially welcomed him to Parliament, and we will do the same when the Emir of Kuwait comes to Parliament next week. So, what is the point of all this contact? What do we get out of it, and what do other parliaments get out of it? First, international engagement helps to share best practice between parliaments. In the case of gender and politics, for example, the conference was, as I said, a fascinating series of seminars in which parliamentarians discussed how best to ensure that barriers to political engagement based on gender could be overcome, and how parliaments could become more representative of their country's populations. These are issues that affect parliaments the world over. These get-togethers promote the sharing of best practice and experience between long-standing parliamentary democracies and with emerging ones. For example, I recently met the President